So today I have something pretty cool for you because we're going to go in and we're going to talk a little more about editing with the F-curve that I made a video on. If you saw that video, you saw how the F-curve, the filmic curve in general, is better than an S-curve and gives you more control. So when I went to work on the latest version of Silver 5, Silver 5.1, which is a free update for Silver 5 owners, I dug into this a little more. If you use Silver, you're already using the F-curve, just like if you use most of my presets like Filmist or any of the others. And if you go over these and you start applying these presets, particularly down in the darkroom Silver presets like these, you're gonna see that a lot of these are using this kind of F-curve. We're pulling it down more on the highlights and giving it more control in the details and the shadows, but this works with any preset. So you'll see that if you have Silver, you've got 5.1 in your downloads, but also ModKit 1.1. Now ModKit doesn't convert to black and white, it just mods things, okay? So you can use the ModKit photos with any process you're working on just to save time. Now I'm gonna show you something really cool that we didn't cover in the F-curve video, and it's one of the main reasons I put the F-curve in here as a really specific mod, and I actually hand-coded this to make it more specific. Well, let's start in Lightroom, but I'm also gonna show you in Capture One. All right, so I'm gonna scroll down and just look at some different presets, right? This is a pretty contrasty image as it is, and so I could take something more lo-fi, hi-fi. I'm gonna use the IQ2 landscape. Now we see here that we could still use a little dynamic range. I could totally go to elegance presets. I could go up here and manually select a sky, but in relationship to how our global tone is working in this photo, let's come and just play with this really quick. I might go up here and do the new hi-fi expansion, which is the opposite of lo-fi despansion. Lo-fi despansion makes your blacks blacker, your whites whiter. In the same way, hi-fi expansion gives you a little more dynamic range, but a little less than HDR booster. Again, these are things we can use in ModKit. But now I want you to draw your attention to the Intella F-curve here in ModKit. If I click this, you can see it doesn't change a lot, but it really does soften up those highlights. So it gives us those filmic highlights. It applies that nice classic F-curve that I showed you in the video the other day without playing any games, without any hassles. Now you can of course modify it. You can pull down here, add more contrast, etc. Look what you can also do. You can come here, and because presets in the latest version of Lightroom can control the opacity, watch what happens if I just turn this F-curve up. And you can see if I turn this up to 200%, it modifies that entire curve dynamically based on that curve. And so I can move this wherever I want. And you notice how as I turn this up, I'm leveling off, I'm softening more and more of those whites. Now 200 is fairly extreme, it's almost kind of crushing the lights a little bit. Watch what's happening. As I turn it up, I'm actually gaining contrast. Let's look at another one on a portrait. And I'm gonna show you how I kind of go through and would edit a black and white to really get rich contrast, pull out the details, and then come in with the mod to get the look exactly the way I want. And even if you're making your own presets, you can apply this method. I'm gonna go down and just choose a preset that works good. Let's go with something like Silver Skin. And now I'm just gonna go up to ModKit. And I can see different ways to do this, like adaptive detail and noise to bring in a little bit of grain. I could do things like a little bit of more dynamic range. I could change exposure around to make it a little bit brighter. But again, in this case, let's go to the Intella F-curve. Now you can see not a lot changed here. It changed the curve a little bit, and you might be thinking when you look at some of these curves like, okay, what's the big deal? The essence of this is that as we roll off these highlights perfectly and then balance them with our shadows, our highlights get better defined by our shadows, and we get this more natural, organic, creamy, filmic look that can still be as contrasty as you want. So now if I come in here and turn this up, watch how her skin, her lights get actually more contrasty, but without losing it and looking just weird. We're getting almost this backlight kind of feel when I turn this up, and yet we're not pushing highlights up, because instead of pushing everything up here, it's following the paths that are created in the F-curve. So we get these rich blacks, but they're still not pulling down too hard, and these lights that are really rich and creamy with a really gentle roll off. This is one of the reasons presets are more important than ever. Not simply because we can get a lot of different varieties really fast. We can try films and black and whites and dynamic ranges, but because we now have the ability to control opacity, we can really keep ourselves from editing too little or too much. So let's take another photo. Let's not even do a black and white. I know we're mostly talking about Silver 5.1 here, but let me just go down to Ektar Gen 2 here. So here's our raw, here's Ektar Gen 2, and now I can turn that Ektar look up or down depending on what I want and have this amazing control. And it's actually dynamically changing it over here with these sliders. And notice how it's adding all these curve points just like it did with the F-curve. Now I could use the ChemKit mods that are inside Filmist, but because they're mods, I can use them anywhere. I can also use the mod kit, and I could say, let's use the F-curve on this. And then again, I could control how far I wanted to go with it. But there is one more little important detail, and let me show you, and this works whether you're doing a color or a black and white photo. I'm gonna go back and just reset this image to raw. So you can see down here that we have no settings in our curve setting. I apply the Ektar Gen 2 preset, and you can see that it adds all kinds of stuff to the curves, to the parametric sliders, as well as to the point curve, as well as to the color curves. This is a complicated formula. Now watch what happens if I go up here and I apply the F-curve. It puts the F-curve on, but it didn't change any of my other settings that went along with the profile, the recipe that I was using. To achieve this, I went in and manually modified the code of the preset, and I did the same in Capture One, so it's only affecting that part of the curve. And that's something you don't get if you just generically save a preset. It overwrites the whole curve when you save curve into the preset. By manually coding and making this custom IntelliCurve, it operates intelligently in that it's only adjusting that Luma F-curve while leaving any color profiles and recipes or parametric sliders or anything like that that you've put from Silver manually, from a film preset. It just leaves them alone. And that is really powerful. The workflow is that I can come in, browse my main effect, see how it's gonna mix channels, see if I wanna do a filmic look. I can go down here and I could mod like the channels to get blue light filter or an orange 56 like filter. I can mix it up however I want, and then I can finish with these tone mods right up here in ModKit and really just dial it in. And of course I can still come over here and do the manual edits. Those are great. But getting all these possibilities, getting all these variants with presets in literally seconds is game changing. And being able to turn those up and down dynamically is game changing as well. It's not hard to make an F-curve. I showed you in the other video. It's not even hard to save it as a preset, and you can apply this same thing. I'm just always trying to improve my preset packs. Despite features being different in Capture One, I retained all this functionality in the update in Capture One as well of Silver. Okay, so now we're in Capture One. Let's actually go down and convert this to black and white. I'm gonna do something like Orton Soft. So I'm gonna apply the style in Capture One, and now I can go up here and I can say, all right, put the IntelliCurve on it. But wait, what's going on? We don't have the ability to just turn a preset up or down in Capture One like we do in the latest versions of Lightroom. But I made a workaround. We do have really powerful layers. So I'm gonna undo that IntelliCurve. What we can do is we can click and we can put that curve on a layer, and then we could double it up or do it however we wanted. But I made it easier. If we go down to the MK layer mods for Capture One in ModKit, you can see there's an IntelliCurve. And this applies the IntelliCurve here on a layer, but it's at double strength and 50% opacity. So when you apply this preset, this style, it's going to apply the normal F-curve, the classic F-curve that I've been talking about in my videos, but you can turn it up or down now because it's already predefined the settings and it's at 50% opacity. So you can either go up to increase it and double it, or just go down and use the F-curve just like you would use in Lightroom. And I think that's something that you Capture One users are really going to enjoy, because it just allows you to combine all the Silver recipes and formulas and then easily roll into ModKit and get those great results. You Silver users are really going to enjoy this Silver 5.1 update, and I think you're really going to like the implementation of the F-curve. Go over and check it out if you don't have it. You can, of course, download the free sampler of silver as well if you want to play around with some of my black and white tools. And you can, of course, make your own F-curve presets more or less in this way. Now, if you really want to go as far as I did, you will have to do some manual coding and modifying what the preset defines by actually editing the XML and the detail code. If you're a silver user, that's already done for you in the 1.1 version of ModKit, which of course you can use across all of my preset packs without a problem. And there's also a lot of little updates in the silver 5.1 main pack to the recipes. Particularly, there's even more updates to the main pack for Capture One users, because as I've told you before, Capture One I always have to do a little bit more refining on because there's so many settings in it, and it can be very powerful, but it can also make it so you have to dial things in a little more. I hope you guys found this useful. I hope you're playing with that F-curve. Let me know in the comments what you think. Hit that like button, maybe subscribe, and we will see you on the next one.